When it comes to front-end work, I mean, real front-end work, there are a lot of misconceptions about it that people have. If you're working in a more established company, there's a lot of more logic-based work. And so there are many parts of front-end work that you actually learn and expect to use every day in wherever you're working. But it turns out that things like GSAP, animations, you don't tend to use them as much. Things like mouse tracking and custom cursors or event listeners other than maybe mouse events, you don't tend to use them as much. I use React in my day-to-day personal projects, but in my place of work, we actually use something called Aurelia, which is something that really surprised me because I always believed companies or big organizations will end up using some sort of cutting-edge tech. And that's not always the case. The reason being, most times when projects are started for products at a company, they will end up using whatever is available at the time or what best suits their needs at the time. And building a project for, let's say, 4 or 5 years, it's kind of really hard to switch over from whatever framework they're using, in my case, Aurelia, over to whatever cutting edge technology is there 5 years down the line. It's kind of hard for them to say, let's rewrite the whole project every time a new very fast JavaScript framework comes out and takes over the market. So the best they can do is build a project and then hire people that are just proficient in general front-end work and get them to use that library that they already use. So in my place of work, we use Aurelia. I am more proficient in React. And when I was hired, I kind of had the assumption that I would be working day-to-day with React. But when I got in, I found out they actually use something called Aurelia, and it's kind of very easy to pick up. I picked it up in less than a week and built some demo apps in my free time, and I started working on a lot of stuff at the company. And yeah, it's been a really, really, really cool experience, picking up some other framework and just learning to use it and using it anyway. Another thing at my place of work is we actually do much more logic-based work. So unless you're working at a startup or doing a personal project, you very rarely need to do extreme amounts of work building up the actual styles of anything, because most of that stuff has already been done. A lot of the components you need to use have already been done at the company. If it's a large company, for example, you wouldn't go and create your own type of button because most of the time they already have their own implementation of what a button should look like and how it should be styled and how it should, what kind of logic it calls underneath the hood and what events are triggered when you click any button on the app. They probably have their own implementation of that already. Something else I have to do with a lot more is using their own state management solutions. When you're building your own personal projects and you get to decide what type of state management you want to do on the fly, if you were using React, you would just end up using a bunch of use states wherever you like, which is cool if it's a very small project. But once you're building large-scale apps that see, say, even up to 500 users, you can't trivialize your state management anymore. Yeah, so most of the time, the place you're working at will already have some kind of state management that they do, and you just have to follow along with that. You have to learn that and follow along with that. Something else is their code standards. This one should be kind of obvious. If they have code standards that they follow, Linting rules that they follow, you definitely have to go along with that because it will get picked up in a code review. And when you push code that wasn't properly formatted in the style that everyone else does it or doesn't follow the same rules, let's say they like doing, they say no arrow functions or something. and you use an arrow function and try to push that code, it's kind of embarrassing if that's picked up, especially if you've been told beforehand. So yeah, code standards, pretty serious. So we do a lot of work with the product team. We have a lot of meetings with them. So I think communication is a really key skill to have, because there are just some things when you're in a much more established company, it's really easy for things to just get missed in the cracks when you don't speak up about certain things or you just fail to communicate properly. So, and with this, I've come to the end of all the things that kind of, well, not surprised, but kind of caught me off guard in when I started working a real front-end role at a structured company. So yeah, I mean, if I missed anything or you feel there's something else I need to mention, please leave it in the comments and let me know. Cheers.